Hello, and welcome to Pilgrim Lutheran Church and School's virtual Sunday school. I don't know about all of you, but I don't have a crystal ball. I am not able to look into the future and tell you exactly what's going to happen. But as we listen to Jesus in Mark 8:31 through 38, he actually looks ahead and foretells of his death and resurrection, which was unimaginable at the time. It had not happened yet. Nobody had heard of such a thing. So listen to the passage and do some thinking, and then we'll have some discussion about what does this mean. Jesus foretells his death and resurrection. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? For those who are ashamed of me and of my words, in this adulterous and sinful generation of them, the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." So we hear that, and we ask the question always, what does this mean? So in the beginning of the passage, Jesus is talking about his own journey. And so I think he's accomplishing two things with this. Number one, he's talking about his own suffering and that he indeed is going to lose his life and rise again. And so when I hear that, first he's telling us that he's going to be the role model. And we all know that role models are very important in our lives. When we see somebody do something and we see how it affected them, a lot of times we want to do the same thing. And so he's letting us all know that he's going to go first and he's going to show us how it's done. But he also talks about suffering. And suffering is not something that I personally would want to look forward to. It doesn't sound great. But he's giving us a message in this that there's going to be rejection. There's going to be suffering, and that it's okay. He's going to go through it, and there is another side to it. And that side is eternal life. And a wonderful, great thing that he continues to live on today, and he lives on through us. So when he was saying this thousands of years ago, people weren't quite sure yet what to think, again, because it never happened. But here we are today, and we know the story, and we know how it's lived on, and we know how we have carried on this story throughout the course of time. And then at the end of this passage, Jesus is talking about what we all have to do, what all the people of the world need to do. There's a choice to be made. And the choice really is to follow Jesus, to give our lives to that, or not, and to place maybe greater weight into the collection of human things that have value. So I think of, collecting lots of money. What if you had all of the money in the world, but you didn't have Jesus in your heart? Where does that lead, is what he's saying. But I think he's also saying that all of that doesn't matter as long as you have one thing, and that is Jesus in your heart, giving your life to God and living a life that is aligned with the Gospels, that's aligned with the 10 Commandments, that's aligned with Jesus's teachings. And when you do that, you can have very few human possessions, but still have the greatest promise. You could have many possessions and still have the greatest promise. The human things don't matter so much. The thing that matters is that when you give your life to God, you have the promise of eternal life. And that is good news. And we thank Jesus for going first and showing us that it's okay. We thank him for letting us know that it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but that listening and living a life dedicated to God will get us through, and that there's something wonderful on the other side. So thank you for joining Virtual Sunday School this week. I look forward to seeing you again next week.